Oh, ho, ho! Welcome everybody to the quarterfinals game number 2 between ObscureLifeForm and zerorush. I'm Adirondack Rick, being joined by Udai Monistic. All right, what a match we had in game number 1.
To close out this series to finish out our quarterfinals, where zerorush is playing to survive, tournament life on the line. I am very excited for this, Rick. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good. Yes, ObscureLifeForm won game number 1 of this best of 3 series. So now if ObscureLifeForm wins, he gets Andy in the semifinals. Now yesterday they wound up getting Ambrosia. What are we going to get today? It's Key Sanity.
Tournament keys, of course, for those of you who are maybe cluing into this a little later in the tournament, you're going to have full key sanity, so that's bigs and smalls, maps and compasses. The only things that aren't shuffled in are GT big key and Agatower smalls.
And we are off and running on the right-hand side, and ObscureLifeForm's off and running on the left side. Link Sprite for zerorush. The flopping fish for ObscureLifeForm. I wouldn't expect it any different from ObscureLifeForm.
You know, I feel like we're missing an Easter egg where the shopkeeper just gives you a quizzical look when you show up. He ought to give you an extra 100 rupees for that.
He would, but you know, that's not something that these shopkeepers are going to do. As we flop our way on over towards the Hyrule Castle escape, and we get to see what our uncle has, what the chest has. The uncle has the compass belonging to Eastern Palace. Compass is not really that important here. Compass to Swamp Palace. That full magic, though, could be very nice for ObscureLifeForm.
Yeah, both of these two certainly not getting pointed in the right direction yet, although true north for them looking like the Sanctuary, as ObscureLifeForm not hanging out without any sort of weapon to continue. zerorush thinking the same thing.
So our first of the keys turns out to be the small to Turtle Rock, and now in game 1 was Ambrosia, as I just mentioned, but it came down to the battle for the flute, and the flute turned out to be up on Bumper Ledge. The item that we needed to obviously get that flute turned out to be the cape, which ZeroRush got to the first over in Turtle Rock. Now, ZeroRush did not know about the flute being up there, but zerorush did. But ZeroRush, without a lot of checks up there, wound up getting to the Bumper Ledge sooner than later and wound up getting that for go mode. Which brings us here to this game that has him have the series advantage. We're going to get to see what we have at the Lumberjack. Udai, is Aga required?
Well, taking a look at here, it looks like a small key of some kind.
Now, that's a very interesting thing to find because you don't know if you really need it. Now, these runners know how they can skip some keys, like for instance Palace of Darkness. You can skip some keys over there, but if it turns out to be something like the Swamp Small, you really can't skip that.
No, I mean, you'd hope for the best when it comes to which dungeons have pendant requirements. Of course, without maps already kind of, you know, in their dungeons, we don't know about which dungeons need or are needed necessarily until we gathered those maps.
And we get our first sword down the hole in the Lost Woods, and now we go to Blinds Up. 5 items here. Udai, what do we got?
Well, we got a bomb for a wall. You know, order of operations here, you want to have that explode quickly, but I'm seeing some cash. Floppy fish getting a heart, some more cash, red theming going on so far, and a key to pot. Of course, 30 more rupees along the way is certainly helpful, and if we go down the well, we can probably get the last of them. Piece of heart to round this out. ObscureLifeForm most of the way to the bottle vendor item.
Yep, zerorush doing a little bit of a routing change because zerorush does not have any bombs for Kakariko Village. Now, the logic for Hyrule Castle states this first item is in logic right from the get-go. However, what's beyond this thing? Well, it's beyond logic at this point.
Yeah, nobody wants to go all the way down here without a weapon. You don't want to go to the Dark World without a pearl. zerorush no longer in any concern on that front.
Now, OLF does not have a bomb for the back of the well, so we'll see if that comes into play at some sort, but it looks like ObscureLifeForm is going to get the money for the bomb first. Now, we're going to check the back of the tavern first. Nope, we're not. Okay, we're going right straight for those bombs. I was going to think that we're going to go check the back of the tavern. In the event that it turns out to be like 3 bombs with a 10 bomb drop, then it turns out to be a nice find. We get ourselves a small key to Dark Palace, which is locked behind a Hyrule Castle small key.
Yep, and as we see Obscure coming back for the well, doesn't want to forget about this, as the well had pretty much run up dry of any significant items, certainly no explosives. Maybe in the back, though.
Is that the first pun you gave us?
First of hopefully many.
I hope so, because I've been looking forward to this since we had our original, hey, the glove back there. I've been looking forward to this since the first ideas that we were going to do this back in the Swiss stage. Zero Rush getting the big key to Hyrule Castle. Bow is locked behind a Hyrule Castle small.
Yeah, and a lot of significant progressive items. ObscureLifeForm getting his grasp on those gloves as Zero Rush, pull one back with a Death Warp, and notches his way to the next item here in the back.
Yep, and this is going to be locked behind not the Hyrule Castle small key, but by either a fire source, such as the lamp or the fire rod.
Yeah, so neither of our runners are probably going to care very much.
Watch the speed bombs. Watch the speed bombs. Oh, okay. There's our lamp for logic.
We will find one.
All right, so Zero Rush is doing something that he considers to be out of logic, but with that lamp, that would now be in logic.
Yeah, early on at that, we've had a glove, so I think the inclination the seed is pointing towards is probably up to the mountain pretty soon. But
however, 20 rupees.
Palace.
Nothing there. Oh, I love seeing that we have a heart container over at the library. Now see something else over at the race game to the point that I say, nope, I need this item.
Yeah, no point walking away, skipping that. Of course, smart to check it first. I think there is some rationale in like a larger race to go after, just diving ahead first. But the knowledge probably more valuable in this head-to-head.
Oh, yeah. And it's hammer time here for ObscureLifeForm, because once he does get that Moon Pearl out of the escape, that will be Dark World access.
Yeah, and that Moon Pearl might end up being a bit of a rough find for Obscure. Obscure has been at the castle, probably doesn't want to head back there. But we do have a glove, so maybe he'll go from the back entrance. Doesn't have a small key, though, right?
Yeah, he does not have the small key, so he's just going to check these back 3. Now, obviously, with the Moon Pearl, it's going to be funneled that ObscureLifeForm gets to that spot sooner than later. And obviously, having the glove, you don't have to worry about doing the Hyrule Castle front area and spending that key that is out of logic. And we get a whole bunch of money and some bombs as Zero Rush pulls up the hammer. Now, the interesting thing here with the way that Zero Rush is routing things here is the fact that Zero Rush is going to be able to get Dark World access and then be able to go from south to north into the Dark World.
Yeah, really nothing blocking your path at that point. Of course, a couple different options for how you deal with the Dark World when you have enough of the items to get there. Our runners have to consider not just the direction they want to go with the items they have, but also the keys that they can spend along the way. With one pod to our name and not much else, our runners are probably a little leery about committing too hard to one route.
I will point out that there are 2 pod keys that we have seen so far. You need to have, I believe it is, 3 to get to the back of the Palace of Darkness, but there, of course, could be a pod small key inside a pod. Who has never seen that happen before? Well, I think the number of hands that will be raised up for that are very limited.
Yeah, and of course, we are aware of the bow as well. Zero Rush having conquered the castle to find it does change the math a little bit in regards to going to the eastern part of the Dark World, whether or not you want to wait for a mirror to try and do that and eastern. Things to consider all around.
And speaking of eastern, we just found out by a map check from ObscureLifeForm that eastern is a crystal. And it turns out to be one of our 5-6 crystals out to Reg, doing the tracking for us behind the scenes.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot more of that to do in this particular key sanity format. Big shout out and thanks to Reg. Here we are with Agina's Cave. You never want to forget Agina.
Especially in Key Sanity, which could turn out to be more important more often than not. Obscure Lifeform spending the bomb to find out that that is a bee in a bottle, which will be interesting for when Obscure Lifeform gets back to the village.
On the bright side, at least this time it was not Agkina Cave.
Excuse me?
You heard me.
I heard you. I just wish I could scrub that out of my memory bank, but okay.
You ever feel like you got flashbanged by words?
I do now.
Bombs to be purchased here for Zero Rush, who definitely has a lot of overworld in the mind. And you're going to need those bombs. As Obscure Lifeform here, opening up Mini Moldorm Cave, we do have a good bee. And I think we're about to see it to full effect here.
Alright, there we go. There's our bee. And we get ourselves a big key to Ice Palace, yippee. A piece of heart, a small key to Palace of Darkness, a red rupee, and the ice rod, which we don't know if we need at this point, but you definitely like seeing that. Yesterday, in game number 1, that ice rod turned out to be in the Lumberjack, so you're definitely bringing a sigh of relief that you get the ice rod early.
You know, I'm a big fan of finding the ice rod. Even if I never need it for Turtle Rock, I'd just rather have the options. You, of course, can smash a frozen enemy for a special prize drop. You can use it in conventional and unconventional ways for bosses. Just an all-around fun item.
And you could also use it against the Lambos if you don't find the fire rod for the 2 per body kill. As we get to check to see what we have at the Ice Rod Cave. Zero Rush doing exactly what I thought, making their way to the Dark World.
Weren't we just in the Ice Rod Cave, though?
Well, yes. Now we're in the Mushroom Cave.
Wait, this isn't Stardew.
Do you wish you were playing Stardew over doing commentary together with me?
No, but you know what? I did once name a farmer Sahasrahla.
How'd that go?
A very profitable farm. It was on the west side of the map, which didn't really work out, but, you know.
Yeah,
anyway.
because he normally is on the east side of the map. Unless you're playing cross keys, which then it's a whole different animal. Obscure Lifeform heading to the mountain. Now, this is unfortunate where he's going to delay this trip to Hyrule Castle. He is going to get the knowledge about that key that is at the Lumberjack, but it's just unfortunate the fact that Obscure Lifeform is going to choose a 2-item location at this point in time. However, it does get you the opening or the entrance to the old man, so when you do find more stuff, there's a little more of a convenience return to the mountain.
Yeah, and there's definitely a possibility of finding more access up here in the mountain. You could just as easily find a hook shot or a mirror. This is still sound, and if you do find one of those two things, you can extend this a lot further, too.
Isn't Broccoli one of the dwellers in one of the Dark World caves?
Interesting point. Yes, towards Palace of Darkness, the little shack that would represent the Eastern Sahasrahla house.
I call it Dark Sahasrahla anytime I find it in cross keys. Obscure Lifeform saving the old man. Okay, they were going to send us in different directions than Hyrule Castle right there with those flippers. And we find a heart container up on Bumper Cave for Zero Rush. Now, Obscure Lifeform has to be careful. Nice poke of the dead rock to push it away, because those things do 1 heart damage. Damage! Look out! Cabbage is trying.
That's a lot of potential damage. Well, Obscure Lifeform
Hi there, Mickey.
Emerge unscathed at the end there.
Yep, he was able to get to the top. He does see a heart container there. Zero Rush pulling up 50 rupees, which is good because Zero Rush will probably at some point want to get to the digging game, which costs 80 rupees.
Yeah, Zero Rush not very cash flush at the moment. I'm going to dive into Thieves Town at this point. From the looks of things, I don't believe we have any keys, so this is the front 4 and then bouncing. With 4 hearts, though, it's pretty easy to get a Death Warp.
ObscureLifeForm's doing the hula hand to get himself the cash for Zora.
Camera offset looked good. And yes, error handling room achieved. 200 something rupees.
Shield, number 1 for Zero Rush.
You know, on the other hand, too, the nice thing about Houlihan Cave is that this does take you over to Link's house, which is a different part of the map from where he started, so there's a little bit of routing involved in that front.
So we're going to get to see what we have on the Lake High of the Island. There is a small key there. And a map to a place that you don't want to see a map to, which is Ganon's Tower, because it does nothing.
Well, you know, I really think ObscureLifeForm is really in his element here.
He's a fish in water, swimming around. And we find the man under the bridge giving us 20 rupees.
We'll say, though, Rick, I am questioning his efficiency going this way around.
I'm questioning saying, Eudaimonistic, how would you like to do commentary with me?
You know, the answer to that question is always maybe.
Another useless map right there with Hyrule Castle, and now all the maps we get are to the actual dungeons that we can find out crystals or pendant information from.
Yeah, while that GT map not exactly a fun find, maps in general vital for this type of run. You can eliminate some by, you know, having enough crystals visible and knowing enough pendants, but you're generally going to want almost all of them.
There's the map to Thieves Town, and there's the compass to Thieves Town. Right side by side. Thank you, game.
Are you attempting to figure out Thieves Town? Would you like to know more?
Yes. And the ObscureLifeForm getting rid of his bee, the not good bee in the bottle that he wound up getting. 2 more checks over here. One costs 500 rupees, the other sitting on the ledge. The ledge, well, we're not going to get that. And for Zero Rush, a number between 1 and 30 will yield the item.
Sorry, did you say between 1 and pain?
1 in pain, yes. And it's just vanilla.
Like, you gotta think, like, Link's back hurts after that. You ever tried digging 30 holes?
No, next question.
Well,
Hey, Arrow Game! Look at this, a strat we don't normally see.
And the funny thing about this, too, is that, you know, Dig Game generally provides the rupees that you need on that front, but this is really the only good way to get them on the way back to Village of Outcasts. There's no guarantee you're going to find enough in the next couple places you go to.
So Zero Rush is trying to get the 110 rupees for the Palace of Darkness coming up here. Now, if you wait until that thing that is moving from right to left, if it goes past the second curtain, then you can time it so that your shots make it every single time. Zero Rush able to get the 64 this time around for the full bonus. There's one bigger bonus, though.
Right, I mean, you can get quite a few rupees off of the multiplicative 2 factors there, but you'll notice that he did a lot of sword buffers as well that aids his timing. That's Moon Pearl for ObscureLifeForm, and thankfully not leaving without that bow.
Yeah, at this point in time, you've seen the back of Escape. That key to Hyrule Castle is only really a logic footnote at this point, so you definitely dig this entire castle.
But he doesn't have a shovel yet.
We'll find one before the end of the stream. Don't you want to bury the hatchet?
Yeah, fair point. I mean, we only have a small sword to work with. Any additional blade at this point, probably a worthy find. And Zero Rush going to find a cane instead here in Hype Cave. Bombos medallion and a full heart container. I didn't see what the generous friend in the front gave us.
Nothing exciting.
Well, I would think naturally Zero Rush checks information. Ooh.
Here we go. Let's do this. 2 throws to the guard and he's dead. And Tower of Hera, and we already knew Eastern Palace was one of our 5-6, but we do get confirmation of that. Plus the Tower of Hera, the other of the 5-6, so both 5-6s in the light world.
I gotta say, the way that Obscure Lifeform left that guard quivering for those arrows, just cold. Onwards and upwards to the dark world for Obscure Lifeform, taking a portal here just south of Link's house, as Zero Rush a little bit further ahead in this particular chain, heading to the pyramid now. We of course see Swamp as a crystal, which is nice.
And Thief Sound turned out to be our red pendant. And Zero Rush, seeing a heart container, says no to that. And now we head to the Palace of Darkness, where 110 rupees gets you inside for some fun. Fun. Just pure fun.
You know, the rough part about this too is, there are ways to kind of skip things with keys, but you're coming back here. If this is a crystal. And so doing the early checks now, you have to make kind of a critical gamble one way or the other.
Yeah.
There's things that probably feel correct as far as trying to get the most possible items, but they might not be correct.
And so I think the only place we haven't seen in this dark world at this point is what? Skull Woods? I mean, we got Catfish also, but besides Palace of Darkness, I mean, Skull Woods, I don't think Zero Rush went into.
Right, of what's available.
So Obscure Lifeform is going to be going here and finishing off the route over at the Dig game. Now, the interesting thing about Obscure Lifeform is when he starts to check the Dark World from the Village of Outcasts, he will make a detour and see what that bottle yields from the Sick Kit. It's the only thing that we haven't seen that has been a difference on our Spear 1 locations that Obscure Lifeform picked up.
Yeah, there wasn't really a natural opportunity to do that, you're right. I want to point out real quick, Zero Rush, so high IQ in this entrance to Palace of Darkness, managed to get a fairy to heal him during the door open cutscene. Just thought that was pretty awesome. Worth pointing out, I think.
Okay, so according to our tracker, Zero Rush did the middle chest there, the big key chest, and then the right side. Did not take the key from underneath the pot, probably trying to preserve it when he gets the fire rod to actually finish off Schoolwoods.
I'm sorry, Rick, I was dumbstruck by how this fish was digging.
That's okay. Not everything is a bad flop.
Fair point. He was fishing for something in there, and
oh yeah,
had enough rupees at the end of things. So we're probably not going to see any archery from Obscure Lifeform until needed for some statues.
All right, so we get ourselves a small key to Ganon's tower, which we do still need at least to have one key. I mean, we could easily grab one underneath the pot. Hey, there we go. There's our small key to this dungeon. I told you there's a pod key in pod. Obscure Lifeform looks like he was getting ready to go into the dark world, but then reverse course. Hey, I got a bottle. I should check to see what that is.
Yeah, and while it's not necessarily any kind of guaranteed important item, it's a thing that most people would not be doing when they have a lot of world to explore. And that health might end up being pretty handy. We have not really received much to make us durable at this point, as Zero Rush putting on display just how dangerous pod can be with low health.
So it looks like based on the way that Zero Rush is routing things out, does not have a small key to check the big key chest, but is going to go over here and check underneath the Staphos check. And it looks like he will go over towards the Mimics afterwards. Probably was wanting to see if the Hyrule Castle Small would pop up. So that way it would put the bow that he has in logic.
Yeah,
now that I was just going to say, now that he hasn't, now that bow's still out of logic, so anything that he gets over here, he's got to remember, he's not supposed to have at this point.
And of course, that will not stop him from taking anything over here, but it is an important consideration when planning your next step exactly.
Alright, so we're not going to get any new information on Schoolwoods just yet for Obscure Lifeform. We get a big key to Desert Palace behind the bow. and 20 rupees. And at this point, I think Zero Rush is going to go ahead and do the hammer yum and check to see what we have, the last 2 remaining items that are accessible but are not in logic until we get 6 pod keys. Zero Rush getting bothered here and finally gets it pulled off, right?
Yeah, after all this winding around, finally the time to do that hammer yump is you would not do this until you could secure your exit out. We have no mirror to work with, and a death warp is pretty inconvenient. So a few frame buffers here, and that should line us up enough to get the first bomb down.
Yep.
We'll be able to line up the correct y-axis coordinate here with some clever diagonal one-frame movements. And
Yeah.
there we go.
The diagonals always move Link 1 pixel in each direction, left or right, or left or up, right or up, or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, behind 6 pod keys, we have a map to Turtle Rock. Yay.
That's a pretty nice find considering the ice rod information. Of course, with that GT small, Zero Rush does not actually know about the ice rod yet. But Obscure and this pass through, or when Obscure does go through here, we'll be able to find out immediately about Turtle Rock and kind of put that into perspective.
So I think at this point in time, Zero Rush is going to go ahead, check the back 3 of Escape, then make the way up to the mountain. So what do we have left available to us that's in logic? Obviously, we don't have a way into Desert Palace, so therefore that big key means absolutely nothing to us, even if we did have access to it.
We could turn in a mushroom or go to Eastern.
Oh, right. Where was that mushroom again? That was in the Ice Rod Cave.
Correct. You mean the Mushroom Cave.
Which, that's right. Zero Rush has not done South Shore yet at 25 minutes in.
Hey, it's a big world, a lot of stuff to do.
Oh, yeah.
Let's not, push this guy to be in any more of a hurry than he needs to be. His name, after all.
Well, he needs to be in somewhat of a rush, otherwise his life form will be 0. As far as the tournament's concerned.
Exactly. Like this is, your last shot here. This is the last series of the quarterfinals. For those of you who aren't aware, semifinals pretty much gearing up to go. We will have a little bit longer as we consider the upcoming GDQ marathon, give an extra week for that particular round. But I'm very excited to see just where this tournament turns out. A lot of fierce competition at the top.
And the first of these semifinals is actually on the schedule. It's going to be coming up on Sunday between GFE and Scholzer. And that should be a lot of fun coming up here on Sunday at 2:10 p.m. Eastern, 8:10 Central European Time. Now, ObscureLifeForm going down the hole here over towards the other section of Skull Woods. These are new checks. Okay!
Well, you were wondering where we were going to find access to something new. Of course, you can have more than 2 items in Skull Woods. Key Sanity does open up the potential for chests in dungeons that don't have very many items in them. That mirror is huge, though. That'll get us up the mountain to the top and across. And then potential for bug shot if you didn't think one way up the mountain was enough.
Oh, here's boy. We know there is a big key sitting on Spectacle Rock. And of course, this opens up everything that's on the right-hand side of the mountain. And those checks over there in Skull Woods are in logic.
Well, Rick, that may have been a fire rodless dungeon, but it sure was spring-loaded.
Your puns are on fire.
Pulled that one out of my pocket, but I don't have a moon pearl, so I don't know. There's some glitch joke to be made there. Kern saved me.
What is the bunny form of eudaimonistic?
Great commentary? I don't know.
That's up for debate. Big key, Thieves Town!
So that does complete the picture for Thieves Town. We've already seen both the map and compass in the Waterfall Fairy Cave. Zero Rush, getting bullied a little bit out here. Gotta be careful there. So that is everything we need for Thieves Town, right? Did we get that small? Maybe we need
Jack-
10 still.
Chad is wondering which one of us is regretting our life choices more, you or me.
I mean, you know, it's a long life. Not every moment's going to be a gem.
Is it a crystal?
Tower of Hera, I am not certain. I believe it's a red one, actually.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so the bits are blocked behind the Hera Big Key.
Yeah, with Crystalline Focus, Obscure Lifeform finding another way to pick things up here in this seed. We'll, of course, finish the dungeon as it is required. But that is an excellent find. Obscure Lifeform finding everything that he needs to do Dark Death Mountain at this point in pretty 1, 2, 3 fashion.
The last about 5 minutes have gone in the direction of Obscure Lifeform, and this is very, very interesting at this point in time. If you're rooting for Zero Rush to force a Game 3, it all depends on what Zero Rush does after he is done with his Zora check. Now, of course, just like the case with the Moon Pearl, Zero Rush is going to get funneled into this direction at some point. But he's got to make his way back to Skull Woods. We now know that. Now, of course, the next big question is where is the Hera Big Key?
Yeah, the good news is that you're going to probably have that hook shot and a decent shot at doing a Hera pot. I don't think Zero Rush should have any issues with that. So probably not going to miss this altogether, but it is possible in certain circumstances.
And we find another... Sorry about that. We find another big key up on Floating Island.
And that might be the thing that really helps out Zero Rush in this race so far. Obscure may have found his way into a really good sequence, but with all the keys required, there's still a lot of opportunity for things to swing back and forth. Certainly for the pins to be put into place. And I don't know, there's a lockpicking joke there. I wasn't quite able to pull it together.
Well, we know where there is a good locksmith in Hyrule. We may have to go visit them at some point. Now that we have the mitts. Now, magic, but now that we have the mitts, now we can go visit them. Zero Rush going up to the mountain at this point. It's going to find out about the flippers.
Chat, the Good Luck Smith is actually where you buy your upgrades. You can randomize your luck while you're at it. I don't know, it's a vanilla joke, I think. You know, luck is actually a really interesting mechanic in the base game. For those of you who are looking for, like, an obscure fact you don't know about the base game, look up the wiki for luck, as it's very little known.
Swamp Small.
So Swamp being confirmed to Crystal early on, that Swamp Small is a big deal.
And it turned out to be Bombos required for Turtle Rock, so we do have access to the entrance of the dungeon, but without the Cadence Mario, we can't do much about it. As we find the big key to the Palace of Darkness locked behind the Titan's Mitts. Thank you, game, for the map of the Tower of Hera locked behind the Titan's Mitts. And the big key to Turtle Rock.
Yeah, that's pretty good to find there. You know, it's not like you're likely to, you know, wait until you go to Turtle Rock to get there. But it's good to have
interesting decision by Zero Rush here.
It doesn't exactly have a lot of resources to work with for this. It is possible with, you know, enough health and magic. We'll be able to get through comfortably, but could have been a big deal.
Yeah, we've seen that be a big deal in some of our quarterfinal matches, just not in this case here. Now, it looks like Obscure Lifeform is going to do Paradox Cave.
Yeah, I like this sequence in
Oh,
general. That's a lot of Death Mountain to take care of.
all right. I guess if you're cheering on Zero Rush, you want to see the Fire Rod pop up coming up here in this next stretch here with Eastern and Sahasrahla, but Obscure Lifeform finding a whole lot of items locked behind some sequence breaks.
Yeah, pretty standard fare for racing, but certainly not what the logic expects. A Skullwoods key that is actually helpful if you need to go through Skullwoods. Um, you always want to have kind of like one at least. Another Pod Small, and Turtle Rock Small, which we definitely want to have. You're going to need at least the three of them.
That is 2 right now for Obscure Lifeform. And the next stop for them looks probably is Swamp.
Yeah, with that small in hand, flippers, hook shot, you have no risk of losing any items here. You can't do any diver down, which is unfortunate with Kane, but you still do with bombs. Well, Eastern's been open for the entire race. Zero Rush going to find a small key to Thieves, which is interesting. With that big key that we've also found earlier on Obscure Lifeform's side, that would give us complete access for the dungeon. As Obscure is looking to open up the entrance, Zero Rush is finding information that was within our grasp early.
Trying to think exactly what we were hoping to find. Oh, there's our Hyrule Castle Small. So now that bow is in logic.
Yeah, and it's entirely possible that this was the only thing you needed to come into Eastern Palace to do early on. But Zero Rush has all the components needed to full clear it, so no reason not to be here. I definitely agree with this choice. Doesn't have the mirror yet to try and combo that with Pod later, which Obscure Lifeform might be able to do depending on how important this dungeon is for any other items.
Well, there's good news. There is a Skullwood Small.
Yeah, that's one more reason to head back in that direction. I think a Fire Rod, as you mentioned, would be the best case scenario, though it's pretty hard to ignore it at that point.
I full agree on that one. And I think that might be part of the reason why Zero Rush is trying to do all these other checks. We are down to one final check here in this Eastern Palace, and I think really at this point, Zero Rush kind of needs this to be the Eastern Big so he can complete this dungeon.
I would also celebrate Boots.
Oh yeah, Boots would be nice.
A little damage boost here, getting an enemy kill, and it's red, but you dread seeing just 20 rupees there. You wanted that key or some other accessory. Zero Rush leaving out of there.
So Zero Rush pulling out the mushroom. And it looks like that's exactly where Zero Rush is going to go to next. We're going to get to see what that leads. As we do see Obscure Lifeform getting the diver down. Had to adjust a little bit, but good work right there.
How does that work? How do you diver down if you're a fish?
Magic.
Like, does it become a submersible? Are we above or underneath the water? Can we breathe?
Those are all very good questions.
Seems like a buoyancy debacle to me.
Now you're trying.
As
Big key to Skullwoods.
You know, normally you don't really get too excited about that in most circumstances, but in Key Sanity, there's a decent shot that your return trip to Mothula has something important.
So Zero Rush looks like he's going to be going and checking the sick kid with that bottle he just got via the mushroom turn-in, and then head back into the Dark World. And Zero Rush really needs this to be a trip into School Woods at this point in time.
Seems like
that
Zero
is
Rush,
not the sick kid.
Zero Rush seems to think he's missed something at this point, I think. Well, early on with the lack of bombs available to us, pretty easy to have that, you know, hey, moment of doubt. Did I remember to do this? And I don't blame him at all for that. Just double checking for sanity.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things you've got to remember in these modes, and these runners have done a pretty good job getting themselves into the quarterfinals.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Both of them have vanquished quite a few foes. Speaking on Obscure's side, Obscure did say bah to Humbug in the last series. Did take down Akir saying Nakir, and was studiously taking down C Studer. Had quite a run, as well as Zero Rush saying, I don't know what the Chimo. I had puns prepared, and I forgot them after.
I know you're trying. I know you're trying.
Well, he decided that Chimo would see Mo the tournament from the bleachers.
Oh, gosh!
Yes!
Oh, gosh!
He phoned it in on Telethar. And erased Aridin from the bracket. That's mirror for Zero Rush. Trying to claw his way back in.
I just don't know what to say at this point in time.
You'd think these two would have the red cane at this point to pull me off stage, but we have not found that yet, actually. Alrighty, we've got a Argus fight here. Double spins for Obscure Lifeform, taking on a Weird Lifeform. Having a little bit of trouble with the doubles, but still moving on pretty efficiently.
And Zero Rush heading over here towards the right-hand side. He's going to go ahead and do the right side of the mountain, then go into the Tower of Hera. Now, interestingly enough, we have not seen what is supposed to be our progression with regards to how we're supposed to have the Titan's mitts.
Yeah, we found that in Tower of Hera, right underneath the big chest. Hey, there's that ice rod usage we were talking about. Nifty.
A little off time. You know, that's the thing with the ice rod, is that you can have a really, really difficult time getting that timing because of that hesitation.
It's also a heavily underused weapon, so I mean, like, we're all very good at certain timings, like with the hammer and the fire rod, but not quite as rewarding here finding those arrows. The ice rod did deplete his full magic meter, so a slightly slower refill animation to finish this out as well, so there is some downside to using it.
There's Skullwood's small key number 2 for Zero Rush. And he's probably going, really?
Well, other than some keys and other assorted finds, it looks like Obscure Lifeform didn't really get much out of Swamp.
Yeah, that Tower of Hera small is really the only key that we found.
So with the mirror available, Obscure Lifeform has every reason to take the Dark World path all the way through here and try to gather some more information. You know, Thieves Town being a pendant, but with all of the components we need split between the two, looks like Obscure Lifeform's not going to take the bait there. Looking at the full complete picture, as far as our Y items go, we definitely need a fire rod. Uncertain regarding a flute. Who knows on the book? There's still a lot unanswered right now.
I mean, we've answered one question in regards to how we're supposed to have the bow, compliments of Eastern Palace. Obscure Lifeform doesn't know that, but hey, there's the third and final Skullwood Small. And now we go into Sequence Break City here for Obscure Lifeform, a trip into the Dark World. Oh, Zero Rush getting knocked out of the Harapot, and it looks like he's going to abandon it for now.
That's extra rough. Zero Rush does not have the Titan's Mitts from this, and that's going to be very difficult to try and get based on what I know. We had the big key for this in Hookshot Cave, right?
The big key for Desert. Wait a second. Zero Rush marks. Okay, well, we'll figure that one out. I know there was a big key to something. Mire, maybe? Oh, Turtle Rock. Definitely Turtle Rock.
Yeah, I remember that one.
All right, so looking at our options right now, we're very, very limited on what we can do.
Yeah, we're missing like some kind of big key repository that has all of the movement that we need throughout these dungeons. We can get into most of them, but we're missing a couple of key items and keys.
Right, Pod Big Key, that's right. That was one of them. Right now, Obscure Lifeform doing everything that he needs to as we try to figure out how we're supposed to even be in the Dark World, or not the Dark World, but be in the Ice Palace at this point.
So, Bomb jumps with a fish. I gotta ask you, Rick, does this classify as dynamite fishing?
Fly fishing.
I'm with it. I like it.
Fly fishing.
Well, I may have been baited into that one. Obscure Lifeform going to cross a gap, going upstream here in the dungeon to try and get the remaining items here in the Vanilla Big Key side of things. Has the hammer, of course, and no powder to take advantage of this Mandy Fairy.
Oh, I just realized something. You know one of the things that Obscure Lifeform got via the Dark World?
What be that?
The small key to Swamp Palace, as Zero Rush is going to drain the water, get one item out of here, and have to bail.
Ouch. Yeah, that's pretty rough. And Zero Rush, you know, we've already seen earlier, was looking through a couple of locations twice just because it seemed as if we were missing something. So we will get the one, but that's all Zero Rush is getting out of here. Good news is anything important in this dungeon anyway, but it's just so much time spent on getting it open again.
Yeah. Yeah, that is time that you can ill afford to give up when you're down 1-0 here in this series.
I will say I'm a little surprised that there's so little water outside of the dungeon if you're bailing out of there. Stole that one from chat, sorry.
Yes, I know. You got to provide attribution at this point in time.
Yeah, much appreciated, Nelson Alex. Alright, well, another key for Skull Woods, I think taunting Zero Rush at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Decide where to go. We get a small for GT and Ice Palace. Obscure Lifeform doing the thing that kind of remains at this point.
Looks like Zero Rush at this stage is going to try the Harapot all over again. Logically, I think we're down to only really a couple of locations that this progression can be. And I'm thinking Catfish or the Graveyard Ledge.
Yeah, it does seem like that mirror has blocked quite a lot of our overall access, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if that was the case. Graveyard Ledge is kind of like the answer. Arbitrarily, of course, because any of the available locations can be an answer.
Okay, now Zero Rush gets that Thieves Town big. Alright, so that gives us a few more options at this point because of the fact that that key was where it was. This is just not looking like Zero Rush's day at this point. I mean, there's still plenty of race left, but Zero Rush is going to have to get something that Obscure Lifeform is going to take a while to get in order to have a chance in this mode. Although, Obscure Lifeform having an issue with Gold Stare. Oh dear! How did he get away from that?
That is the magic of pause buffering, and we've seen it from both of our runners today, but that may have been the niftiest one so far.
That was probably framed perfect, because otherwise he was going to get swallowed up by the cotton candy puffs here. Switches over to the hammer. Probably should consider being up towards the top to prevent the ice from falling apart.
Yeah, we did see Obscure Lifeform get the mail upgrade here in this dungeon, I believe.
Yeah,
we'll be able to take one
vanilla
shot directly. And I will say, I'd rather have the one-hit buffer if I'm using hammer.
Being a little patient. Oh!
I was fortunate to take an ice shot, as that only did 1 heart of damage. Still can take a direct collision.
It's creepy death several times as the Cold Stare makes the charge. This
really is turning into a Cold Stare caper.
one down.
Breathing in a puff of air after that one.
It's breathing in something at this point in time. It ain't gonna be fresh air until you get all 3 of them killed. The ice that falls does 1 heart damage at this point. If Cold Stare touches him, though, he is dead. Back to start. Ooh.
Eyeballing his next hit.
Wow. Two down. Oh! Iframes!
Iframes it.
There we go! We got it!
Well, he decided to take a crack-o at it, and did manage to pull this off, so references to other games notwithstanding, that's I believe a red crystal? No, it's just a regular crystal.
It's regular crystal. Remember, Eastern and Hera are 5-6.
Shoutouts and, congratulations out here for Obscure Lifeform. That was a difficult fight and well-earned.
Oh, yeah. That map may be made of gold at this point. Zero Rush back in Thieves Town. Thieves Town providing us with... Ouch! That's definitely what it provided us with.
Sometimes it feels like the game itself is providing us with ouch. Not even just its enemies. Just, in general.
Looks like Obscure Lifeform is heading over towards the eastern area.
So Obscure Lifeform does have the benefit of mirror going through here. There's a lot of roundabouts done by Zero Rush and Pod and Obscure earlier on, but both of them will be able to complete the 2 together. We'll say both of our runners have been just outside of death throughout the entire race, it feels like.
Yeah, and right now Zero Rush has to be careful because if one of these things touch him, there's our big key to Hera. That's our logic for the Titan's mitts.
And that is really big for Zero Rush, who not only will be able to finish doing everything in this dungeon, but will have every reason to go get the Titan's mitts in Hera, knowing that information. Might be inclined to not want to, but if you have a crystal available to you, you're likely to do it. Ooh. Zero Rush, yikes, you do not want to retraverse this dungeon.
We find out that our green pennant is Desert Palace by way of Sahasrahla. Now Zero Rush with 1/2 of a heart. These 2 runners are going to put us back on these pins and needles at this stage. Hold on to your butts. It's time for blind. with 1.5 hearts. And looks like Meyer was our other pendant.
Well, that's good news on a lot of fronts for both of our runners, not really needing that flute at this point. Zero Rush going all in on the script. Should not take any damage as a result, and has good first 2 phases here. Sets up well, and there we go.
Beautiful fight. And the flute.
I don't think you can find a more convenient location in terms of activating that flute. That is like as good as that gets.
Now, of course, that gets us to our 2 pendant dungeons. However, you're not going to complain about getting something that helps you travel across the world like that.
You know, an interesting thing to consider is that Obscure might not be too inclined to return there without the small key. And once Obscure has the small key, then, you know, he has more reason to go check. And if something's important, let's just say in either of our pendant dungeons, Zero Rush does have an early information advantage. Absolutely will end up checking that before too much longer.
Well, buckle up, kids. It's time to take a look at the probably most out of the way locations here on the North Dark World. We're heading to Graveyard Ledge.
Oh wow, Rick, I completely forgot that Zero Rush, in my excitement about the flute, that he doesn't have the mitts, so yeah, that's not Meyer area at all. But yeah, I mean, the ability to check this is something that your opponent's unlikely to do, because there's no convenient reason to be coming back across here.
Interesting bomb jump from ObscureLifeForm.
Yeah, that's something that we've seen a lot of in the key sanity modes here in this tournament. Palace of Darkness offering quite a few novel ways to do them. Zero Rush, in a hurry to get that bomb exploded, will drop an early bomb to get that to open up as soon as possible. So nothing in the Graveyard Ledge cave. Zero Rush running out of places to go to get those mitts. I believe this is a catfish check. As we get Obscure Lifeform heading back through the dungeon, with only 6 of 14 items found here in Pod, doing the long loop as well, but with a couple more keys to work with, has probably the ability to just clear almost everything here. I didn't check to see how many doors he's opened so far, but should have most of what he needs for that. Alright, so a stone's throw away the Zero Rush from Catfish item. Having to do a little bit of weird, awkward navigation without the mitts. This could be a really big deal. Zero Rush looking for those outs. Back of the hall mimics here for Obscure Lifeform as Zero Rush finds the farthest spot in the pond from which you could throw a stone and get an item. Heartbreak as a fourth of it, gonna pull Zero Rush away from the Dark World into a save and quit, back up the mountain. With Mirror in tow, this looks like heading straight up to the top, which does improve Zero Rush's chances immensely.
I do want to point out that there is a big out here for Zero Rush.
Well, do tell.
Hera Big Key.
Yeah, so we did not see the big chest when Obscure Lifeform went through.
And if there's something important in there, like a fire rod or a medallion, well, obviously the medallion's not as important, but like maybe the Cane of Samaria, maybe even the boots. That's a little bit of an advantage here for Zero Rush. Is this going to change the full direction of this race? Maybe not, but you have to figure that Obscure Lifeform, that is going to be one of his last locations when he does get the Hera Big.
And that's the thing about, Y items in a key sanity mode is, there's plenty of opportunity for them to be in places that could normally be excluded by hey, there's only so many items in this dungeon. Well, in key sanity, you don't have that luxury very frequently. And long chains can be, found late in a race. If Zero Rush does accomplish that, there's some potential for, say, a Boots advantage or a Canis Samaria advantage to really cut a lot of time.
Well, there's the map to this dungeon. We already knew it was a crystal. There is the mitts for Zero Rush, and he is set up perfectly, and it's just 3 bombs. So that is good news for Obscure Lifeform and his fans, is the fact that that did not turn out to be a devastating find there in the Hera Big.
But I do think the point stands. There's a lot of opportunity for some divergence here, and I would think that Flute is the most likely answer at this point. For those of you looking for Zero Rush to come out of here with a chance at Game 3.
But we're going to be probably waiting another about 5 minutes before we see any of that, because Zero Rush is going to finish off the mountain first. We're going to be checking Super Bunny into Hookshot Cave.
Yeah, and that will net Zero Rush quite a few of the keys needed to close this out, and will make the remaining options available to him much more palatable. In the meantime, Obscure Lifeform taking quite a lot of time here in Palace of Darkness, understandably so, to preserve that key count. You want to be able to do everything in here, and that means that you don't open certain doors, particularly the front one. As we saw before, of course, there is another key in this dungeon, so this will be rendered mostly moot. But there's no way for Obscure Lifeform to know that. That throw with the bomb is pretty cool.
Yeah, throw it, get yourself to the other side, and your iframes take over, and you get through there with perfect amount of time. Now, we did not see what was in the pod big chest when Zero Rush was here earlier, and we're going to get to see that in just a few minutes here ourselves. And there is a pod small key coming up here for Obscure Lifeform in 3, 2, 1. There it is. Have you been trying that?
Trying what?
The da-da-da-da noise?
No. Well, I mean, I did just now, but...
Because you did that to perfection.
Hey, you'll love to hear it. At least, I hope you do if you play this game, because you're going to hear a lot.
And as we've been here for the past hour, this is game number 2 of the quarterfinal match between Zero Rush and Obscure Lifeform. The winner draws Andy in the semifinals to be played over the next couple of weeks after this. And so that's going to be a lot of fun coming up here. Be sure to give both of these runners a follow. They've been doing a great job here in this run, especially given that little bit of a tense fight that Obscure Lifeform did against Cold Stare and Zero Rush did against Blind.
And both of these two runners with a lengthy tournament history, both deep into brackets, I think, in every single outing I've ever seen them in, all the way back since like 2018. Fierce competitors who have putting it all on the line for you here on SpeedGaming.
Ooh, uh-oh, that's bad. That's bad for Zero Rush.
So that, in the big chest of Palace of Darkness, a big key for Eastern Palace. On the upside, a last location will put you right next to where you need to use it. But
yeah.
You do need to go to get that. There's no out for that one.
Yep. Now, that is not horrible, because you still need to go back to pod to finish it. It's just more annoying that he couldn't do that in one swoop.
Yeah, and you have every reason to check everywhere else first, particularly if we find the remaining Y items quickly. Now, on the upside, Zero Rush will have reasons to check, those pendant dungeons, as they'll be running out of locations to look at. So the sequence may have been kind of forced in that direction for him anyway.
Now, good news. Zero Rush is heading to the Palace of Darkness. Obscure Lifeform now should know that his bow is in logic. For those who didn't see the opening of this race, that bow was in Zelda's cell.
Yes, and of course, so the Hyrule Castle small key having quite a linchpin implication as far as anybody paying attention to the logic of the progression of the seed. Both of these runners have to consider stuff like that when they do things like the Bolak side of Palace of Darkness and their key counts in general.
Also, big shout outs to the 800 people that are watching us live here on Speed Gaming. Thank you very much for joining us. We have another match on the schedule, the first of the semifinals between GFE and Scholzer that will be coming up here Sunday, 2:10 p.m. Eastern Time, 8:10 Central European Time. Should be a lot of fun there, game one of the semifinals. Now, we're going to have 2 weeks to complete the semifinals because we've got holidays coming up here as well as summer games done quick. So we don't want to stress the runners out too much. So that means the finals are going to be the week of July 11th.
Yeah, to think we've been here since March doing this, back at the very first qualifier. Quite a lot of fun this entire thing has been. Of course, if you're interested in getting involved in these tournaments, we're always looking for more volunteers. For those of you who are looking to track, commentate, and otherwise, pretty select crowd at this point in the tournament, but we try to make it as easy to get into as possible. As this whole thing is really made by people like you, and we really appreciate all of you for tuning in and participating. This thing grows every year, and it's amazing to see it.
So what Eudaimonistic is saying is thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I am very privileged to have an opportunity to share this with you here today, Rick. This has been a lot of fun so far. I'm looking forward to seeing just what this will turn into with the ensuing semifinal series, or potential Game 3 first. Obscure Lifeform, as we've talked about, is been powering his way through this bracket, and Zero Rush no slump either. They're fighting tooth and nail to get here to the end of this one.
Oh, yeah, for certain. And I do have to share the same things with you in regards to being here, getting to do this match together with you. I know we had an opportunity, or hoped to have an opportunity back in May to do things, but things didn't work out. But here we are in the quarterfinals. All right, getting back to the action here, we got a new check coming up here from ObscureLifeForm, 18 arrows. Later, we'll find out what these Armos Knights will be dropping. Vanilla.
Like, how powerful does a fin need to be to pull a bowstring?
Have you ever seen that Filet-O-Fish commercial from McDonald's?
I have not.
By the way, Speed Gaming is not sponsored by McDonald's. So those things are strong enough, I guess. They could pull a pole. I mean, they could bend. I mean, they have talent.
Chat informing us that there are such things as archer fish, so I suppose I stand corrected. It was a flop of a joke. That's another crystal on the board for Zero Rush, who is trying to make up some ground here, as we see 5 crystals for Obscure Lifeform. Turtle Rock, unknown how we're going to get through all that, as we're still missing a cane and Fire Rod, which you're definitely going to have.
The thing is that no matter what, we cannot do the other 2 crystals at this point. We cannot complete them. However, Yudai, we can finish all of our pendant dungeons.
Yeah, it's starting to look like that's gonna be necessary.
No, we can't. Oh, wait, we can. Oh, gosh. Please, no. Well, we still need a cane of Samaria, which we know can't be on the pedestal.
And there's a fairly good shot that we're gonna find it along the way. I'm starting to think that a Meyer cane of Samaria or Meyer area seems pretty likely at this point.
As the fish flops on over, it shows us the heart. We get the 2 at the Pyramid Ferry. Yudai?
A bottle of red goo and a, well, it's not ragu, but a couple of rupees and a B too. Obscure Lifeform not going to be happy about that. Another location checked off the list. You know, Obscure is going to end up doing everything exhaustively. Has the head start. But if it ends up just being the Pendant Dungeons and Zero Rush goes there first, some of this downtime could be eaten up pretty quickly.
Udai, I love the fact that you made that rhyme.
Always alliterative if possible.
You're a man of many talents.
Hey, one of them is not being good at Zelda, so that's why I'm on the mic. There are some people who are good at Zelda who are on the mic, but you know, I compensate for that with puns. These two compensating for that with runs, and until they get the boots, none of that. I haven't seen anything that's been blocked by boots, but we still have a Desert Torch in play. We can find out about that pretty soon. Obscure Lifeform is going to probably head towards... have we been to the Zora area for Obscure?
Yes, we did.
So this looks to be where the route terminates, but Obscure's going to walk away from this. So this is heading back south?
GYL.
Yikes. There's no good way to do that in this run.
Nope. That hook shot pretty much tells me that this is going to be Graveyard Ledge. Which we know is for 3 bombs, but Obscure Lifeform doesn't. And I don't think the Obscure Lifeform... Okay. They must have turned in the mushroom. I don't know. Anyways, there's... Nope, I guess... Yep, there we go. There's Crystal for Zero Rush.
Yeah,
Now, I would like to see Zero Rush make the way over towards the Mire area to bank on the fact that he pulled out that flute, but I think we're going to go and do our Crystal Dungeons now of Swamp. Oh, no, never mind. No, of course, prove the commentator wrong.
You know, though, this is huge. This is exactly what Zero Rush needs, and depending on how long Obscure spends on, say, the Smith Hunt, this might actually put Zero Rush in a position to clamber back into this.
Yep. And we can't get in just yet. We need to have the Quake in order to get into the Misery Mire. So no baiting Zero Rush into that dungeon for now, unless we find Quake. That's not Quake. That's Turtle Rock Small Key number 3.
Yeah, TR Small, a good thing. That is one more thing that prevents Obscure Lifeform from going up to TR with the other items if we find them. You know, Zero Rush finding alternate armor there in the Mire Shed will not have to wait until Ice Palace to have some damage reduction, which is great.
Obscure Lifeform seeing the heart on the ledge, knows he does not need that. Probably is going to go into Thieves Town next. Or not.
And
never mind.
Once Obscure does that, though, I mean, that will clue him into the rest of this chain.
Oh, boots!
Galloping Galoshes, Zero Rush has the ability to continue at a fast rate at this point. Immediately going to get that torch item. Well, maybe not, but we'll at least get a grasp at what's there. Is that a powder?
That's a fetch quest.
Thankfully, we're heading directly to where we're fetching it to, as that will put us right on path for Smith Chain. Obscure Lifeform going to continue on. If nothing happens with the Smith Chain, that powder is actually really huge for Zero Rush.
And desert. Back in the desert we go.
Yo, dog, I heard you like finishing Desert Palace, so we're going to put Desert Palace progression behind Desert Palace progression while you're Desert Palace progressing. All right, dashing through the sand. Gonna make our way through here, and Zero Rush remembering some NMG knowledge, or I guess rando knowledge at this point. Finding 5 more arrows along the path. Has the ability to replenish quite a few of them, as that may end up being an ideal weapon for Lamolus if the Ice Rod shots miss.
Silvers!
Or he could just find the better arrows. I mean, sheesh. So more than enough arrows found on the path to the arrows. Arrows found for Obscure Lifeform. I've already made the quivering joke, so I'm all out of that one.
Good, because I was quivering in my boots.
Indeed, knocking a few back in celebration. Or notching a few back.
I told you I was going to be groaning throughout this entire commentary. Bug catching net.
Unfortunately, nothing but net, and we're not playing basketball here. Obscure Lifeform has come up mostly empty. Not a point scored out of these items so far, but the nice thing for Obscure Lifeform is this is all one smooth sequence. The only thing he's missing to make this super fast is the flute. But, I mean, not that bad.
Yep, and we know where that flute is. It is on blind. And we get another boss coming up here for Zero Rush. Here's the Lambola. Sword upgrade. Interesting. Okay.
Maybe big? We definitely want it.
Oh, Ether! And the green pendant. Yay.
Alright, so that's not the required medallion, is it? We said it was Quake for...
yeah, it was Quake to get into... So not necessarily the key underneath the doormat this time.
And we may or may not even need to actually go into Misery Mire at this point. Although it seems pretty likely.
Alright, checkered board cave coming up for Zero Rush. Purple chest for Obscure Lifeform. Nothing but rupees for Obscure Lifeform. Zero Rush. Getting... Oh no! Really, game? Key underneath the doormat!
Yo, dog, I heard you like getting into Misery Mire. Alright. So.
Now we just need to find the Canis Samaria, but, you know, where was that Mire Big that Obscure Lifeform got?
You know, I really want to say it's here, but I think it was Hookshot Cave.
Yeah, this was a bottle.
Well, that was definitely a sequence of events and progression, and yeah, Zero Rush probably laughing at least a little bit at this point.
Alright, let's see what those boots lead to for Zero Rush. We're going to start off with King's Tomb over here on the right-hand side. You're starting to get nervous at an hour 15, although the seat hasn't been all that friendly to us at this stage.
Certainly makes sense how much we're seeing Zero Rush checking and relying on the boots checks. There was a small key on Lumberjack Ledge, and have we found every small key that we need yet?
We found enough to the point that we could survive without it. So it's not going to be relevant at this stage.
Yeah, we got enough to climb GT, although we still got to find the GT big key, and I guess maybe there's some shot. I guess you get enough keys along the way.
Well, that's the thing about the GT big keys, that under these tournament rules, the Agate Tower keys are both vanilla, and the Ganon's Tower big key is also in its vanilla home.
By that you mean in the dungeon, right?
Inside the dungeon, that is correct. And that is a small key to Ganon's Tower.
With 3, I don't think anybody worries at all about even having to full clear. I know you can get a couple free ones, and usually that's enough to supplement you. But in the worst case scenario, having just 1 going into the dungeon could be challenging.
Mm-hmm. So now I think this is where Zero Rush does what I said he was going to do about 10 minutes ago and goes into the crystal dungeons of Swamp Palace and Ice Palace. But is going to be able to dash a little bit faster thanks to those boots.
Starting to think that Misery Mire must have this Canis Samaria or a Fire Rod leading to it. I'm trying to think of where else we have available, but we've checked almost everything.
Yeah, you seem to be correct about that.
So the hard part here is that Zero Rush needs to either execute so well that he makes a lot of time up on Obscure here, or hope that Obscure somehow ends up going off the beaten path, which has been pretty well established by what we saw Zero Rush do in that whole chain. And it's not really feasible to think that Obscure Lifeform misses any of that.
Although there is another check out there that Obscure Lifeform has that Zero Rush didn't have a little while ago. And that belongs to that lovely little Hera small key that Obscure Lifeform has.
Yeah, if Obscure Lifeform were baited into that and it was nothing, that could be also pretty huge for Zero. But at this point, I'm starting to think the one-offs are more likely to have important things. Well, another boss fight here for Obscure Lifeform. Just a sword and a shield at disposal. Obscure's not going to use any items, it looks like, because this is right on script. Looking pretty smooth so far.
Alright. That's 2 portions down. Sword strength does not matter for blind. And blind goes down.
And only slightly slower overall, but a flute to be found here, and a pendant of wisdom.
And I think if you're Obscure Lifeform at this point, after you exit out of here, you activate the flute, and then you do the desert and mire area.
Yeah, and I think whether or not you go directly into Mire is informed by the route you've taken so far, and I just can't see him not doing that. On the other hand, you know, that Hera Small we mentioned, I guess there's a long shot possibility that, you know, Zero Rush ends up going there before going into Mire, and that could somehow in a contrived way work out to his favor if that's like, say, Kena Samaria.
You see, the out here for Obscure Lifeform is that if he does go to the Hera area again, he's doing it for 3 items as opposed to Zero Rush, who would only be doing it for 1.
Yes, there certainly is some incentive, as we see Obscure Lifeform stocking up on a potion here. Getting the full heal as well. Gonna take advantage of that and hopefully have more durability going into the end game, as we've only seen the second sword. No guarantee they'll be getting through Ganon without a Master Sword fight.
Just as a reminder, this is Game 2 of the Best of 3 series between Zero Rush and Obscure Lifeform. If Game 3 is required, it will be played at a time to be determined by these 2 runners. We haven't gotten that up on the schedule just yet. Zero Rush finishing off with the Swamp Palace has not done Left Side Swamp.
Yeah, and to me this seems like a calculated decision to skip things due to how, you know, far behind you potentially could be. It certainly doesn't feel like you're ahead when you're at this point in the race. Zero Rush can, of course, go right back in, but you're hoping, you know, that you can just skip it outright and save some time over your opponent, which is the case here so far.
Yep.
I don't know if it'll be enough, though, because Zero Rush will end up doing all of Ice Palace here.
Yeah, that is the big difference at this stage between Zero Rush and Obscure Lifeform. Obscure Lifeform has already full cleared Ice Palace, which did not have anything major. It will have the red mail for Zero Rush. Obscure Lifeform is just around the corner from being able to pick up those boots, though.
And while there may have been an advantage to having the boots for this amount of time for Zero Rush, it's not quite enough to make up for a difference overall in routing, as Zero Rush will do the Pyramid Fairy here, and I imagine go directly to Ice Palace.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense here for Zero Rush. Again, that mountain is not all that screaming Zero Rush at this point, especially considering the fact that it's only for 1 item.
Bit of an awkward moment here for Obscure Lifeform, having ran to the back prior to doing everything here in the front. Just a little bit of time loss, but every little bit counts here when you're fighting for your tournament life. Obscure does not want to take this to a Game 3, and has what I would call a mostly commanding position to come out ahead. But there are still a couple of unknowns here. That Cane of Samaria and Fire Rod rearing its ugly head. Obscure Lifeform dashing through. Maybe excited about this find, but it doesn't answer the questions yet. And, you know, at an hour and 23 minutes, that's got to leave you at least a little bit nervous.
And for all you know at this point in time, your Fire Rod, your Canis Samaria could very well be behind those boots. There is the small key number 2 for Misery Mire for Obscure Lifeform, who will probably go in after he is done.
Well, Zero Rush has everything to do here in Ice Palace, and no Canis Samaria for an Icebreaker. So that's going to be a bit of a slow dungeon overall. Does have
Yeah,
the
he's
boots
not.
advantage. The boots advantage does count for something in Ice, though.
This is where Obscure Lifeform is probably running this, that the boots are the bigger requirement here, and so therefore it's going to go ahead and check King's Tomb and the Bonk Rocks coming up here, finding out that it's not. I think really if you look at the big difference between these two runners, it's been routing efficiency.
Yeah, between
Like,
the
for
two,
instance,
I would rate that Zero Rush's movement has been better overall, but, you know, the boots advantage didn't count for that long.
yeah, it's been routing efficiency for Obscure Lifeform. Like, for instance, the fact that Zero Rush wound up having to go all the way back to the Palace of Darkness for a second time because he didn't have all the tools necessary and failed at the Harapot. So therefore, Obscure Lifeform was able to pull out those mitts early.
Yeah, and I would say that reclimb was the biggest chunk of time overall. Zero really suffered there.
Nice bomb strat there for Zero Rush.
And in the meantime, Obscure is going to check out the Mire area here, hoping to try and close in on these last two important items. We're not worried about the Ether, but the Quake will get him into Mire. So we're about to find out whether or not this is the answer. Traditionally, only 2 items in this dungeon, but Key Sanity expands it to quite a few more. As Zero Rush finishes off the right side of Ice Palace, still has quite a bit more to go. We'll probably venture all the way to Ice Tea as well, unless Zero Rush feels like skipping things. I don't think with this many items remaining, though, you can afford to.
I mean, he did skip Left Side Swamp, so who knows?
Yeah, that gamble was huge, as we saw Obscure Lifeform took some extra time to nail the diver down on the left side. The bomb diver down got stalled a little bit by some enemies, and times like that ends up being pretty important in a race like this.
Oh yeah, for certain.
Alrighty, lamp left side here for Obscure Lifeform. Trying to find either another source of fire or a Canis Samaria to sustain this dungeon trek.
Cane of Samaria!
Alright, well that's half of the picture. This will be at least enough to finish this dungeon, which definitely makes this a good find for Obscure Lifeform.
And you know the interesting thing about that, Udai?
Do tell.
That is locked behind 3 Mire Smalls.
Yeah, it did work out that way, didn't it? Some door state extension here for Obscure Lifeform, or at least an attempt to. Firebar really being a thorn in the side.
Some Firebar annoyance strats there.
Hopefully you practice Firebar avoidance instead, but annoyances there will be. Winning a Spark Gamble. Gonna run over here to the right-hand side. No compass, we don't have a dungeon item count tracker. I'm sure somebody here can do the fast math, but Obscure's not missing anything.
50 rupees there in the big chest. And 300. Just a fire rod away. That's not it.
Cheeky place to find the actual compass for the dungeon. With one more item here, Obscure Lifeform is most of the way done here. What do we not open yet?
Cutscene.
Wow, so Obscure's banking on this not being the answer for Fire Rod, which, given all we know about the seed, that's a big gamble.
Oh, Zero Rush having some issues with Cold Stare. And needs to be careful because 2 hearts, they do damage. At this point in time with death, I almost want to say a death at this stage would be what we call GG, but does use the potion, stays alive, takes another hit. So we do know that Zero Rush needs to get into Misery Mire to get that Cane of Samaria.
Yeah, that information is pretty big for the race. I will point out, though, that Zero Rush time and time again having faster boss kills this run. It's added up quite a lot over the course of this race, as at this point, Misery Mire is all that separates the two of them in terms of total progression. As Obscure heads into Turtle Rock, if that Fire Rod's deep in Mire, there's a real shot for Zero Rush to pull this ahead.
So, ObscureLifeForm going into a dungeon that, at this point, you need to beat. Bombos to open the portal. Looks like Zero Rush is going to do the Breadsmith chain. Maybe check the... No, it doesn't have the Skullwoods Big at this stage.
Yeah, so that's going to be one less sword for Zero Rush. Might end up not being a big deal if GT ends up providing, which is not uncommon. But, I mean, it is still something to consider. Zero Rush can still get burned. This Smith chain's not going to do a whole lot for him, though.
Yeah, it's going to burn a little bit of time, and he will get the bug catching net, which is not necessarily we need. All right, there is a piece of heart. Now, ObscureLifeForm is going to be unable to check the right-hand side, but it is just a Fire Rod away from Go Mode, and with 3 keys, you have enough to get yourself to...
The door you just came out of because you got bopped.
Yep. I mean, if ObscureLifeForm wants to go and do the laser bridge, he has the ability to do so, but you do so at the risk of saying goodbye to that great location known as Lava Chest.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, is, there's definitely some opportunity here to miss things. And Obscure is really hoping that Fire Rod deep in Turtle Rock is going to be the answer, because if it isn't, this hurts a lot.
Small key to Ice Palace, which does not do anything for us.
Alrighty, Zero Rush finishing off that Smith chain. Has some choices, but I think Misery Mire is going to be it.
If you're Zero Rush, do you finish this dungeon?
Absolutely 100% I do.
If you're Udai, do you finish this dungeon?
Yeah, but a lot slower.
If you're me, you do the dungeon, then you complain because there's nothing in there.
I get the feeling Zero Rush is going to take some damage here.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but that's the penalty of using the Quake to open up the dungeon. Minus that 1 heart. Doesn't have the Master Sword, so it doesn't have that game of the beams.
And some Bombos usage here from ObscureLifeForm. A good, reliable way to take out those Hokuboku, aka Pokies. But it does take time, and between these two as it is right now, every little bit helping Zero Rush get a little bit closer to back into this, as we're going to find out real soon whether or not this Turtle Rock play produces the go mode we're hoping for.
Chat pointing out the obvious statement that we're going to make in just a moment. That is a small key to this dungeon. That's 4. We have a way to get to Lava Chest.
Yeah, that's kind of a big deal for ObscureLifeForm. I don't know if he's going to run back there. I think he probably should.
Zero Rush is probably not happy about that discovery, but is going to make the same play that ObscureLifeForm did in regards to cutscene chest. We get ourselves the map to Skull Woods.
Not having
And
any issues with
there
stair
is the
extension.
door extension.
Yeah, door extension really handy there, just flipping through that. And another example of Zero Rush finding some time back in the seed. I've been really impressed with overall Zero Rush's execution.
Oh, yeah. But he right now is facing an uphill battle. It's Obscure Life Form's going to go ahead and check the lava chest with that fourth small that he just found. No gamble at this stage. Either way, you get what's inside, and you mirror, and you go back. Zero Rush is going to finish this dungeon.
Yeah, I really like this play. You know, the win condition of skip probably means your opponent wins if you had to go back up to Turtle Rock. So Zero Rush probably has figured this out and has made the play to commit to this pendant dungeon. And on the off chance that there's a pedestal involved, you know, you're prepared for it.
Zero Rush realizing that he did not get this item on the bridge. Now, we know it's nothing important, but maybe he did that just to set up his portal back to that door as opposed to the other thing. Either way, good move here by Zero Rush getting that. All right, if it's on Vidi, if it's on the pedestal, this turns out to be a whole new ball game here for Zero Rush. But Obscure Lifeform is down to 4 final checks of this Turtle Rock.
Yeah, big moment between the two of them. Obscure Lifeform doesn't have a mirror shield, so we'll have to do some laser skips here. Health a factor, you gotta be careful.
Fire Rod right there, Obscure Lifeform in go mode.
Massive find for Obscure Lifeform. Has a shot to close this out now with little opposition. Has the Master Sword needed to finish it. May or may not open a couple more chests along the way, but Obscure Lifeform's race to lose at this point.
Yes, indeed. So, barring a major catastrophe, it's going to be Obscure Lifeform and Andy in the semifinals to be played out over the next couple of weeks. But this race not done and over with. We'll see how this finishes out for both of these runners. There's the 6th and final pod small that we know of.
Yep, we saw Obscure Lifeform earlier pick up a blue potion, so should be in good position to close this out. Thankfully not getting any kind of ice attack. We'll rely on a little bit of sword swing, hammer swap action here. And has to watch his health. Shouldn't have any issue, but using that potion might prove to be a pain later on if we don't get another sword.
Zero Rush checking the pedestal. Well, not yet. Remember, Zero Rush is going first. Oh, setting things up in case he does get the fire rod just outside of School Woods, I'd have to assume.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you're banking it on the pedestal at this point, which it appears to be the case, then you definitely want to have access to the Mothula fight right away.
Yep. Sadly, that we know, Zero Rush is not going to get lucky here. Maybe he pulls a sword. You know, the worst case scenario is that he pulls the book or the shovel.
Yeah, because that would extend this even further. You know, other items possibly out there, a cape, maybe a rogue dungeon item we didn't count for.
Well, that's a rogue mirror bonk right there.
Well, you waited an hour and a half, maybe even 40-ish, to see it. Pedestal pull today, gonna belong to Zero Rush, be
50 rupees.
good old $5 and then some.
You do not feel good finding 50 rupees on the pedestal like that. You feel pain. You feel sorrow. Zero Rush heads up to Turtle Rock. I know people in chat was commenting about the weight of the items, so Obscure Lifeform took the gamble of the number of items versus trying to complete the dungeon. I know we saw this in another tournament match earlier. In fact, that's I I believe GFE versus Zelga, where that came down to, where getting the hook shot instead of Pendant Swamp did not mean you wanted to finish that dungeon, but instead pull the fire rod out of Hookshot Cave, which is exactly what GFE did.
Yeah, so this fire rod wielding fish will hopefully be able to pull everything together here. Master Sword, closing out of the seed is never completely free, but with red mail and silver arrows, we should be in a commanding position. Both of these two have nearly full cleared the game. Quite an impressive run to be doing this quickly.
All right, here we go. Mothula time for ObscureLifeForm. Tries to get him away from the spikes by using the fire rod. Tries to bounce him a little bit with that fire rod as well. Pretty solid fight so far for ObscureLifeForm. And out of magic. A lot of hearts. Does not need to worry all that much. There we go. And that is boss number 7 down for ObscureLifeForm, who gets a refill of the bombs, which he didn't need. And with that, we now have people getting ready to throw in some numbers in the chat. Udai, why are they putting numbers in the chat?
Well, first things first, Rick, I gotta say, that was quite the fish fry into a fish fly. But yeah, 23 locations in Ganon's Tower that can have that big key.
22.
I'm guessing 22?
Yes,
22 locations. Imagine not remembering that. 22 locations to find a big key. If you get to the 23rd one, you're probably opening it with the big key. Of the 27 total in GT. We love to play a little game where we guess which one it is. Rick, if you're a fish, where are you where are you opening with your gills or your flippers?
Well, I think for ObscureLifeForm, we're going to find it at number 8.
Number 8 for OLF. Number 1 in this race, he's hoping. I'm expecting an 18. Let's put those two together.
18, huh? Which one is 18?
GT variants aside, I would presume that would be Fire Snake Room? No, Rando Room.
18 and you do Fire Snake Room.
Rick,
Let me
this
see.
is too much math for this hour.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I don't know about you, Udai.
I pontificate on puns. I don't do any mathemagic.
Well, you still got another 6 or so minutes to give us some good old puns, so work your magic, buddy. This is the quarterfinals. Let's have some fun.
Absolutely, and it has been a lot of fun to be a part of this tournament, of course. Would like to thank all of you for tuning in and hanging out. ObscureLifeForm and Zero Rush definitely appreciate you cheering them on. And of course, as we mentioned earlier on in the race, if you haven't had a chance yet to check these two out on their own channels, they of course play a lot of Zelda. You probably learned something from them. GT here, first 2 checks, nothing for ObscureLifeForm. Almost accidentally spending a key and going to continue right.
A minor inconvenience if you wind up spending that small key there.
Rick, did you say a minor inconvenience?
Yes, I did. That was a key point of yours.
Ah, okay. That one had some teeth to it.
Your bark is worse than your bite.
Just testing your metal.
3, no. 4, no. 5, no. 6, no.
Alrighty, full right it be. ObscureLifeForm gonna pick up a key on the way back. By full right, I mean until you get the key and then you go full left. Yeah, that's what full right means, right? Yeah.
7, there it is.
7, and we will ascend. Mirror in hand, ObscureLifeForm return to the entrance and heading through the front door. 143, starting the climb.
All right. Make our way to the 3rd floor. We fire an arrow towards the crystal switch. We run across the spikes, do a couple of ouches. There's the fire rod for go mode for Zero Rush, who's going to check the other checks for the sword. There was a sword there.
Well, you know, I mean, there's worse things that can happen for anybody in that position, but we'll give Zero Rush a shot at not suffering too much on the climb.
And the sword that he did not pick up that ObscureLifeForm has was at the magic bat, which he doesn't have the Skullwood's big key to get the magic powder out of that check. All right, so one more sword up on the pool. Do we find it here on this climb?
Yeah, not a lot of locations to check on the way. I believe it's just 4, with the 2 in Helmasaur and the Moldworm, and I can't count.
I'm honest here that I'm just really surprised seeing Zero Rush doing the fast strats there with the current getup, but doing a pretty solid job of it. This is where that execution you've talked about has been working out pretty well for Zero Rush. Just came down to routing efficiency in this race.
Well, that's the thing is, you know, sometimes you're going to make the wrong decision, but Zero Rush has done everything possible to stay as in contention as possible. I really got to commend him because, I mean, from the mistakes that were made in routing, this should have been a much farther gap between the 2 of them.
Absolutely. And if you're really wondering what the main execution issue that Zero Rush may have had in this run was the fact that he could not pull off the Harrot Pop and therefore did not get the out of logic big key before on his first trip in. That was the only real issue that we saw.
Or I suppose you mean the Titan's Mitts, right? Because of the... Yeah. Well, there was Titan's Mitts up there, too. Point being is that ended up being a big point of separation between the 2.
Oh, yeah.
That return trip was very slow.
Oh, yeah, for certain. Even if you do find the boots in your travels, which Zero Rush did not because you needed the mitts in order to get the boots. Because we haven't seen the book location yet.
Yeah, and that means the tablets are also an enigma to us. We, of course, cannot read Hylian without it. Zero Rush going to make his way into Skull Woods here just to finish off Mothula, but ObscureLifeForm nearly at Aga 2. Has a Moldworm to get between him and that, but not much else.
And he is going to check these 2 in order to see if there's a sword up here. There are none in those 2 checks.
Well, while you and I can see the point, perhaps Obscure won't if this doesn't end up being a sword. So a couple of extra extraneous checks along the way. That's tautology, I know. Obscure dropping in, gonna have to kill the Moldworm unless we're a hover god, which I don't think is the case.
You're very sharp.
I appreciate that. Trying to make sure I have a tempered look at things, but neither of these runners are likely to end up with that by the end.
And the answer is no. We get ourselves a blue rupee for ObscureLifeForm, so we're going to have a Master Sword Silver Arrow fight coming up here. At least you don't have to do the 24 spins to win.
Unless Zero Rush somehow manages to go full right all the way to the Armos 2 fight, we're definitely going to be a Master Sword fight for both of them. Oh, good attempt at a double there. Unfortunately, angle's not working out for ObscureLifeForm. Does pull off 2 in the second cycle.
The skills of geometry right there. Nice triple at the end.
Well, I am not an expert in the math, as I've mentioned a couple times so far in this broadcast, but ObscureLifeForm definitely cosigns on that angle.
Reg, how are you still stable after listening to us ramble on for the past 107 minutes? That's the only question I have at this point. Here's Ganon.
As we close this out, I do want to take a moment to thank Reg, who has basically been doing the heavy lifting on the organizational side for commentary. He was also a great tracker in the same token.
He's also a great leader of the tournament crew, just like you are.
Well, a little less present this time, but here we are here in the Ganon fight here for ObscureLifeForm, taking advantage of some opportunities to bounce spin, get a couple of extra swipes in, and that's Ganon Samaria usage here in the middle of the Fire Bat circle. Very slow, but you get a lot of spins in with less danger.
Yep, he's got 5 spins so far. You need 12 spins in order to send you into the next stage, so... Oh, wow. Nice there. That's 7. That will be 9, and I think he'll try at least one more round here. That's 11. So he's not done yet. He's got one more hit to get. And he knows he's done.
Yeah, and OLF does have a blue potion available, so with all of the armor, this should be a smooth finish.
All right. Does not even try. Does not even chance it. That's a good decision right there. Save yourself the health. Finally gets the first hit onto Ganon. There's number 2.
And truly your worst danger here is taking a bad bounce off of the Fire Bat.
Yeah. ZeroRush doing the same routing as we saw from ObscureLifeForm. And there's the first hit. Nice timing on the torch. Here's number 2. Down to the bottom right. This will be 3. Just going to go ahead and light the torch one more time. Get Ganon into a favorable position. And here is the 4th and final silver arrow. No, not yet. There we go. Now there's the 4th and final silver arrow. That's it. ObscureLifeForm will win this series 2 games to none. It will be ObscureLifeForm and Andy in the semifinals.
Well, this has been a fantastic race to watch, and ZeroRush not that far behind, all things considered, to even be in GT at all at this point, considering what we've seen in this race. Big GG's to ObscureLifeForm, who will finish with an official time on racetime.gg of 1 hour, 50 minutes, and 19 seconds. GG.
And stay tuned for those of you watching here on Speed Gaming Live. Coming up next in just a few minutes, we have the Super Metroid multi-category tournament. That match will be beginning in about 10 minutes from now. We will have a chance to talk to ObscureLifeForm, who comes on in and joins us for the interview. First of all, GG's and congratulations on making it to the semifinals.
Oh, that's such a nice thing to hear. Thank you so much. GG's.
Secondly, we need to talk about that cold stare.
Let's not talk about it.
I want to talk about that cold stare because there was a lot of movement in chat when you pulled off that final hit to get cold stare down. How nervous were you in that fight?
Yeah, I can't even describe how nervous I was in that fight. Like it went. Like, I missed the spin at the beginning and they broke up a little bit and I was just kind of like, oh, okay, I need to be a bit careful. And then it just immediately ran into an eyeball. And I was like, oh no, now I've got to be really, really careful. And I wanted to do some fighter sword spins, but I was like, this is really boring. So I decided to just go back to using hammer strats. But yeah, the blue came in MVP there. Like, it saved me a couple of times in that fight.
There was nothing boring about your fight whatsoever. You had us all on pins and needles with that fight. Overall, how did you think about your route?
Like it felt really good. Like I cleared out a lot of the early light world because I got quite a late moon pearl. So I got into Skull Woods quite late, and I was kind of like, okay, this feels like I need to go over to Pod. And then all of a sudden, I've got Mirror and Hookshot in Skull Woods. So I was like, okay, this is definitely mountain play next. So I went up the mountain and found like all the big keys up there. And then like the Titan's Mitts behind the Hera big key. And I'm kind of like, okay, what is going on here? And then I'm finding all like these big keys in Hookshot Cave. And I think there's a Swamp Small in Super Bunny. And I'm kind of like, okay, I have no idea what keys I've got, where I've got them. So I'm just going to keep going like it's just the Hera big key, right? Like, that's kind of like the lamp, like it's just a suggestion more than anything.
Yeah. I do want to point out, nice French vanilla pathway to the Titans bits with that Hera big key right next to blind.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion. Just a suggestion. That's all that logic was.
Yeah. But then, I mean, it eventually funneled me into Thieves Town anyway. So I was kind of, at that point, feeling quite panicked. I was kind of like, because that was more or less last location. I think I had maybe like 1 or 2 places still to go. But at that point, it was kind of Smith Chain and Thieves Town were kind of like the most value plays. Mm-hmm. And then when I found the Hera Big Key, I was like, okay, there's the logic. But I was like, where am I going to continue this seed? Like, what's going on here? And then obviously the flute. And I was like, okay, now this is worrying because I've got 2 pendant dungeons. I've got the Maya section as well. I was like, what plays am I going to make? Because I still need the Thieves Small. I need the Samaria and Fire Rod. So, and turns out I needed the boots as well. I was kind of like thinking, like, what's the point of giving me boots so late? And then it turns out GT Big Key was on the torch. So I'm like, okay, that's why.
Well, I didn't even think of that.
I think Rick put it best. We were really on fins and needles the entire time. Just, contemplating where you're going to find things.
Oh, gosh.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but there was a sword on that laser bridge.
Oh, was there? Oh,
yes, there was. It was the second one down. There was also a shield upgrade that you didn't really need, but and also the Swamp's big key, but who cares about that key? But yeah, the other sword upgrade was there. Now, one other thing, we don't have a whole lot of time, but we do have like about 30,000 questions we want to ask, but we do want to make the note that this race pretty much came down to that Hera pot. You were able to pull it off. Unfortunately, Zero Rush was unable to that first try, which meant he had another trip up that mountain to get to those Titan mitts. And I think the other thing was the fact that Zero Rush got that Quake out of Checkerboard Cave and wound up saying no to Misery Mire, did a few other things, then had to go back a little bit later on. I think those 2 things combined was what gave you the advantage, and as such, you are now making it to the semifinals for the 2nd time in a row. How does that feel?
It's pretty unbelievable. Like, I'm still getting over last year as well. Just like, wow, made it to the semi-finals, and then to do it again is just completely unheard of, really. Like, I don't think you get too many people that can say they've hit the semi-finals two times in a row. So, yeah, I mean, we've still got a few games to go. Like, I've got the impossible Andy next, so we'll see how that one goes.
Well, I'll say this much. To take down Zero Rush in 2 definitely puts you in the caliber of players who belong, in the semifinals and possibly beyond. I think everybody here, even Zero Rush included, wishes you the best on that front, because it's a stacked crowd, and you belong right there with them.
Yeah, you definitely have shown that you belong here in the Randomizer community, and as such, welcome to the semifinals. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. That's really kind words. And just, thank you to all the support from the community as well. It's a lot of fun. That's
all right, we gotta wrap things up, but any closing words, Obscure?
No, just good luck. There's 4 of us left. Just good luck to Andy. Good luck to the other 2 players. I don't know if we're allowed spoilers yet, but
we've been saying it all throughout the stream. It's GFE and Scholzer.
GFE and Scholzer. Yeah, good luck to them as well. And it should be an interesting couple of weeks to see who wins. It's coming to the conclusion now.
And as such, now you are guaranteed a minimum of 4 more races. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it here for us. Udai, any closing thoughts?
Not much. All I can say is thanks, Obscure, so long, and thanks for all the fish.
All right, that's going to do it. Big shout-outs to Red, who wound up doing the tracking for us, and Udai, it's been worth the wait.
Feelings mutual. Thank you, everybody.
All right. He's Udai Monistic. I am Adirondack Rick. The Super Metroid multi-category tournament coming up next. Game 1 of the semifinals, GFE Scholzer, Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central European time. Don't miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll talk to you next time. Enjoy.
Have a great weekend, folks.